Let's talk about gaslighting. I really enjoy talking about this topic because gaslighting and manipulation are probably one of the two biggest things that an abuser will use that most people have no idea that they're actually using this tactic on them. Manipulation and gaslighting are really, really hard to spot, especially when you have poor boundaries, low self-esteem, and you come from some codependency. So in this video, I want to give you 5 different tactics that a gaslighter will use on you. That way you can spot this type of abuse if it does happen to you. Gaslighting is all about giving you confusion. So if you've ever heard the term or if you've done your research, then you understand that gaslighting is basically a form of psychological manipulation. It is the ability to dwindle down your sense of self, to not really trust what you think, how you feel, and what you believe to be true. And the way that a person does this is through these different types of techniques. The point of manipulation and gaslighting is to control you. And so they do it through a method of you doubting yourself so much that you believe someone else over your own self. And these 5 different techniques are the things that a gaslighter will use after they've groomed you for a period of time. So the first thing is going to be disputing your recollection. So what that basically means is when they start to say, no, that didn't happen. This is when the person begins to start questioning your memory of what actually happened and took place during an event or a time. They might start to say little things like, well, you have a bad memory. That didn't really happen. Are you sure that that happened? I don't think that that happened. And they'll start to question you so much where you then begin to actually doubt yourself. So perhaps you kind of started this conversation fully sure of yourself that this is the way it went down, or this is how you felt. But over time, the more someone threw those questions at you, you began to have a little bit of self-doubt. And self-doubt isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is when you're actually getting influenced or manipulated by another person. When you start questioning yourself too much, now you're starting to buy into those unsure realities when in fact you actually initially really felt intuitively what happened and how you felt. You didn't just keep that intuition going, you let someone get into you and basically manipulate your way of thinking. The next thing is going to be denial. So if that's not working, where I'm questioning you over and over again, and you're starting to just get very, no, this actually happened, no, this is how I felt, no, this is what the person really said, and that's not working, meaning I'm not getting you to question yourself enough, I'm going to just go straight into denial. So this person is going to either pretend that they don't remember, or they're going to deny that they said something or did something altogether. The number one agenda of a gaslighter is for you to have self-doubt. If you doubt yourself, if you question yourself, then the technique is working. So whatever technique that they use, either the 2 that I've just mentioned or the 3 that we're going to mention now, whichever begins to work is always going to be the thing that they come back to, because they know that's the thing that causes you to begin doubting yourself. And when you start doubting yourself, that's my opportunity for me to sneak in and actually have control over you. So if you doubt yourself so much, you are essentially building a case that you're not okay by yourself, that you can't trust your own intuition, that you can't trust yourself in all these situations to know what you think, how you feel, what actually happened, and that you need someone else to tell you what the quote facts were of the case. And this need and or trust that you have now in this person, this unhealthy amount of trust that you've put into this person, is because they have actually just dwindled your self-esteem. And the only way to have control over a person is when they completely neglect themselves. If you fall too far away from yourself, where you don't have a good connection with yourself, you are open to someone else coming in and telling you who you are. The next thing is going to be playing down your feelings or invalidation. And invalidation is something that, for someone's inability to validate you, means that they are not able to either consciously or unconsciously allow themselves to sit in the space that they did something wrong, that they hurt you, that they disappoint you, that they weren't perfect. And so that's why probably validating someone's feelings is one of the most important things in all relationships, because it gives you the opportunity to sit in my shoes and understand where I'm coming from. You don't have to agree with me, but you can at least understand where I'm coming from. That begins to open up that kind of level of communication where now we have compassion and empathy and other things that begin coming into play without validation. And this is where a gaslighter will purposely do it, even though they blatantly know that they did something or said something wrong, or a situation actually happened, because they know that you're craving that validation so much. That's the thing that you desperately need. When you desperately need someone's validation, you're always going to be let down, because the chances of someone actually validating you are kind of slim to none, because the world is filled with unhealthy people that don't really know how to do this. Because in order to do it, I have to sit in the fact that I did something wrong. That means I'm going to probably be sitting in a little bit of shame. And if I don't know how to sit in shame for a little bit and then get myself out of it, which is self-soothing, self-forgiveness, those types of things, then I'm never going to validate your feelings. I'm only going to get defensive. Now, remember, again, for you, if you need someone's validation so badly and you don't get it, you are now going to become reactive. You're going to be very sensitive. You're going to feel very hurt by the fact that someone couldn't do this for you, rather than you not needing it and seeing that someone's incapable of actually giving it. And that's where we start talking about standards and boundaries and things like that. But when someone starts to kind of belittle or disregard your feelings, your thoughts, and what actually happened and how you took it, that's when you know you could be possibly dealing with an abuser. That doesn't mean that all people that will invalidate you are abusers. Some are just normal people. They're just a little dysfunctional and they have their wounds right at the forefront, and they're not really able to sit in that space for you in order to validate you, because they don't know how to deal with themselves being in that position. But for someone who is a gaslighter, this is definitely going to be one of the biggies that they're going to do continuously. And if that's the thing that really gets you reactive, and then you crave me coming to you and actually talking to you because you can't deal with the silent treatment, or you really need my validation, then you become so reactive and now you're turning into an abusive person, then I've hooked you. The last thing is going to be, and we kind of touched on it last time, but it's going to be withholding. One of the most painful things that I think a person will go through, especially someone who's severely codependent, is that withholding, that withdrawing, that shutting down, that I'm not talking to you, that silent treatment. This person might be playing the game of not really understanding what you're talking about, and I don't really know what you expect from me, or I don't know what you want from me. And so they start to kind of get defensive and really start to shut down on you. If they seem confused by what's going on and they don't really understand what you're talking about, then this gives them kind of like an out, basically. You know, they might start to say things like, are you trying to confuse me? I don't know what you're talking about. And again, that kind of makes you go crazy, because in your head, you're like, how do you not remember this? How do you not know this? You were here. And what could just be blatantly happening is someone is just trying to confuse you so much that you begin to doubt yourself. One more, and I totally forgot this one, but the last one actually is going to be sidetracking. And sidetracking is when we kind of take the focus off of me or the situation and bring it in another direction. So this is when, for example, someone might say to you, well, you never felt that way before, and then you started hanging around with your sister, or your sister tends to have these theories, or your friend tends to have these theories, or ever since you got that job and you started hanging around this person, now all of a sudden you're becoming different. Now all of a sudden you're becoming difficult. Now you're asking so much of me, whereas before you didn't. So when I start to bring other people in the mix to help my case that I'm not the problem, it's really you, and I think you're confused and you're the crazy one and you're the one that's not making sense, and that never happened. When I'm trying to build my case in this way, and especially if it's not really working in the first few minutes where I've tried to use like a couple of tactics on you, now I'm going to start really reaching for like anything. So it really all depends, again, how strong you are, how secure you are in your own self, and how much you know, or how well you know this situation and how it happened and how it made you feel. If you can stay really hone in on those things and not become reactive, and not get emotionally involved in the situation where you're seeking validation and how could you not understand this? How could you be questioning me? And you start to get emotionally engaged in this conversation with them. As long as you can stay super calm and level-headed when you're dealing with this person, you're going to see this person shut down, because nothing that they're doing is working. And when someone can't control you, they have to change the narrative that you're actually the problem. And now this is where they're going to start to come up with all kinds of crazy stories to make you look like the problem, and now they're actually the victim. So I hope I've given you enough tips that you can go out into the world, into these relationships, and hopefully spot when someone's doing this to you, and not necessarily have to call them out, but make sure that, I think one of the biggest things to learn, aside from just the tactics themselves, is going to be how you respond to this person. And that's why responding, not reacting, staying calm, knowing what's in front of you, and how to actually deal with it. It's something that I'm constantly teaching in my private practice with my clients, because it's a doozy. It's definitely not an easy thing to do, especially when you're emotionally involved with someone. So I hope this video has helped you, and I'll see you next week, guys. Enjoy your week.